As long as everyone's ready, awesome. So, welcome. Today we're going to get started with a little bit of mindful breathing. My name is Etienne. I've been doing yoga for a little bit, and we're going to be focusing on the three main sections of your breath in yoga, or in diaphragmatic breathing, they call it. So the first thing I'd like everyone to try is, from a nice seated position, super comfortable, place your hands on your belly. Take a deep, again, you do not have to go beyond what feels comfortable for you. We say deep breaths, but it's really to just whatever feels comfortable with your breathing today. So take a nice relaxed breath in, focusing on moving your hands using your belly, and then exhale from that same spot. So if at any point anything is uncomfortable or hurts today, stop right away, let me know. For those of you that are watching this as a recording, I'll be giving you as many varieties of these movements as I can. And if you have trouble finding one that works for you, that's totally okay. You don't have to do it. So again, pushing and pulling that air using your belly. And a reminder that if at any point you feel lightheaded or your breath is racing, you're having trouble catching your breath, recovery position, hands on your thighs, lean forward a little bit, breathe through a first mouth until things come back to normal. I'm going to be making dramatic noises with my mouth so that you know when I'm breathing in and out. You don't have to if you don't want to. It's mostly just helping me keep a rhythm. Good. When you're ready, you can take your hands and shift them from your belly to your side. And this may be a little uncomfortable depending on your shoulder mobility. You can also give yourself a little hug. But where we want our hands to be is on the side of our rib cage, anywhere on the side of this area. And then we're going to start those slow, thoughtful breaths again. Again, just so that they're comfortable, but trying to push in and out from where we feel our hands contacting our torso. The diaphragm is a great big muscle that has an origin all along the underside of that bottom rib. And it connects along a central tendon in the middle of our body. So anywhere along this kind of zone at the bottom of the rib cage will be somewhere where you have a muscle that you should be able to feel during these breaths. Three more breaths here, in and out, making sure that they're comfortable. I like to close my eyes during these because it helps me focus on what I'm feeling in the other parts of my body, but that's up to you. If you have any balance issues, that's something that you may wish to avoid. Okay. All right, you can relax your hands out. The next place we're going to put our hands, and this is under shoulder, elbow, and wrist mobility as well. You can place them either up on your clavicles, but if that's uncomfortable, you can place them across your hands at your chest. So we have tons of muscles running along the sides of our neck into our rib cage and clavicle area that help elevate the top little bit of the rib cage. And this is where we're going to focus next with our mindful breathing. So place your hands however it's comfortable for you. And with this motion, we're going to try to focus on lifting the top of the rib cage on that breath in and letting it fall down a little bit on the breath out. Just small, small movements. We're just imagining pushing our hands up and away from our center and letting them fall back down. Something else about me, I played tuba in high school. I have really big lungs. So if my breaths don't look the same as yours, That is totally okay. My breaths aren't going to look the same as someone else's who's been doing this particular type of yoga for a really long time. That is totally okay. Whatever comfortable breaths for you looks like is what this exercise is meant to be. And it could just be me, but I feel very relaxed after doing some diaphragmatic breathing, just because it makes me focus on the one thing I have to do anyway, and it simplifies what I'm working on at that time. Two more breaths here, and then we'll change it up. Good. On that second exhale, your hands can come back down from your chest and rest against your knees. Next, we're going to warm up our spines a little bit. So now that we warmed up the breath, we're going to use that in a little movement. So what I like to do is a seated version of cat-cow, which you may have heard of in relation to yoga before, but it's really just when you're breathing in, you're pushing your chest forward and pulling your shoulders back just a little bit, just as far as is comfortable. As you fill this in, and as you exhale, you push the other parts forward and let your belly come back. So all that does is bend your spine a little bit and get it nice and warm. So when you're ready, you can place your hands on your knees, on the sides of your armchair, really whatever's comfortable. And we're going to start in a neutral position, whatever that looks like for you, because everybody's spines are a little different at the start. And on a breath in, again, a comfortable breath in, we're going to push our bellies forward and pull our shoulders back as best we can. And on the exhale, we're going to let our shoulders come forward and push our bellies back just that little bit. If at any point this gets uncomfortable, you may be pushing it a little too hard, but you may also be able to find a nice stretch here. And that is up to you as an individual and how your spine is feeling today. And of course, you can take multiple breaths in each direction if you prefer. That keeps you from moving too quickly. So for example, I could take one breath in to come back to the middle, exhale, and then inhale to do that little push. And then exhale there. Inhale to come back to the middle. Exhale to relax. And then I do the back portion. It's whatever tempo works for you and your spine today. If you have any neck or shoulder issues, this next portion is something that I hope you avoid. But if you don't have any that you're aware of, you can also let your gaze track upward as you take that nice big breath in, just so that the whole spine gets that little bit of a curve to it. And you can look down just that little bit as we exhale, get that little bit of flexion going all the way up to the base of the head.
When does your stomach go in, Etienne?
So your stomach goes in during the breath out or after you've done a belly out maneuver.
Okay.
So you're basically going from belly out, shoulders back, back to neutral, belly in, shoulders forward. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Awesome. So just taking it nice and slow. One more time through the whole cycle, breathing in and out, spine into flexion and extension. Then you can relax and just hang out in a comfortable seated position again, whatever that looks like for you. Okay. Take a moment to catch your breath again after focusing so much on moving alongside with a breath. This next one can be a little bit interesting. So what we're going to do now that our spine has moved forward and back, we're going to try to get a little bit of a twist, not added on to the movement, but on its own. So what we're going to do, and I'll just demo this first, you can follow along in a second here. We're going to take one hand, we're going to cross our body and look to that side that we've brought it to. We're going to bring our chest as far as is comfortable. We don't want anyone bothering anything today. And once we're in that twisted position, we're going to bring our mindfulness back to our breath. Because now that our torso is all twisted up, our diaphragm may be a little more restricted than when we warmed it up. So now we get a chance to breathe into it and gently loosen it up in a new position. So we're going to, like I said, we're going to form a twist and then do some more mindful breathing. So let's take our left hand. We're going to cross our body to the right side, look to the right. And again, how far your chest and shoulders go is up to your personal comfort. And once you're there and you feel like you can hold it for a while, bring your mindfulness back to your breathing, back to this big diaphragm muscle in the middle of your body. Breathe deeply. Again, as deeply as is comfortable, don't go too far. If you want something extra for your brain to do while we're holding this position, you can imagine those three different parts that we warmed up first, the belly, the rib cage, and the clavicles, and try to breathe into one of those three. So you can imagine breathing through your belly for a few breaths, then maybe through the rib cage, and then finally through the clavicles, all while maintaining this twist this time to make sure that we've opened up the diaphragm while your torso is in another position. Couple more breaths here. Give your shoulders a little wiggle to make sure your spine's okay. After that second exhale, you can come back to the middle. Give your shoulders a little wiggle, make sure your spine's all right, and relax for a moment. We are going to go back, or we are going to go to the second side. The only thing I want to make sure of is that everyone's still feeling okay with the breathing focus on today. If at any point, again, you feel lightheaded or you suddenly start coughing, again, just coming back to this kind of relaxed position here and breathing it out. Best thing to do to let that pass. Okay, now the second side. So take your right hand, and we're going to bring it across to the left side. We're going to look to the left. And then once we feel like we're in enough of a wound up position, again, that's what is up to you as far as your chest and shoulder twist goes. We're going to bring our focus back to that big diaphragm muscle. And one thing that I haven't done that a lot of yogis will tell you is whether to breathe through your nose or your mouth. What we're doing right now is already twisting up your torso enough that it will benefit you regardless of which one you choose. So whichever one you're doing instinctually makes the most sense. As long as you have a little twist, thinking about breathing from your diaphragm, you're doing it right. As if things feel good and as things open up, you can give your shoulders a little jiggle, make sure everything's feeling okay. You got it. We're going to do a couple more breaths here, and then we'll come back to neutral. And on that second exhale, slowly come back and let yourself relax. Neck, shoulders, belly, all of it. Let that all relax. Next, we're going to do a little bit of work through our shoulders. So the reason I say that in advance is because I know a lot of people have shoulder problems, and of course there are lots of adaptations people can make when it comes to shoulder work. So first I'm going to demo how or what I had kind of thought of for this exercise. We're going to do, again, in line with your breathing, and then I'll offer different modifications that you can use for yourself at home. So what I'd like to try is with bent elbows, taking a breath in and pulling them out to the side, and then letting them come down, exhale, taking a breath in and bringing them in front of you, and then relaxing down with an exhale. If that feels uncomfortable or bothers your shoulders individually, you can also pump your arms as if you're walking or keep them down low. Those are both good options. So it would be like breath in, you push forward on one side, relax, back to neutral. Breath in, you push forward on the other side. Breath in, back to neutral. So does that make sense? If you've got the shoulder strength, we're going out to the side and then up to the front. And if at any point that starts to bother your shoulders too much, you can just pretend you're walking, using the breath to push to one side or the other. Sound okay? Awesome. I'm seeing thumbs up. Thank you. So getting yourself settled, making sure you have space around you and that you're not going to knock anyone nearby over. Center yourself. Make sure that you're holding yourself up nice and straight. And when you're ready, on your own time, with your own breath, take a deep breath in, again, only as far as is comfortable, and gently raise your elbows out to the side. And then exhale to bring them back in. Inhale to bring them up. Exhale to bring them down. So we're warming up both shoulder abduction, which is bringing your arms out to the side, and shoulder flexion, which is bringing them in front of you. And we're coordinating them with your breath. Part of this is building up to a miniature sun salutation flow we're going to be working into in a minute or two. And also, it's just really good for your shoulders. Like I have supraspinatus problems. If any of you have those, you know that they can be really frustrating. It's almost like having a frozen shoulder sometimes. And this elbow forwards position is a great way to strengthen that. So as you work both out to the side and to the front, take a moment, make sure you're getting enough air. Never feeling lightheaded, never feeling like we're going to fall over. Really take a moment and make sure that your shoulders feel good and that holding your arms up and making them move feels good and natural. Now that we've been doing it for a little bit and this movement is warmed up, if you decide that you would like more challenge out of this movement, all you have to do is lengthen your lever, lengthening your arm. Again, making sure you're not going to smack anybody. So a deep breath in would bring the whole arm out to the side and hold it for a second. And this is the tricky one. Whole arms out to the front and relax. So again, trying to coordinate that with our breathing, doing as best you can out to the sides and then to the front. And not to rush. You can take multiple breaths, like you could do one breath, just getting to halfway, and then the second breath all the way up. It's just going to give your muscles more time to get a little more tired. So if your shoulder muscles aren't feeling tired yet, but you're feeling more time for air, that's a great adjustment to make. That'll make sure your shoulders get some good pain-free work in, and that you never run out of oxygen to fuel those muscles. Awesome. One more time to the front, one more time to the side, and then we'll give ourselves a little break, and then we'll move on. Great, relax those shoulders. They've done lots of work already. Give them a little shake, make sure everything's okay. You can do a little like duck wing flap to make sure they're still ready to go and moving. I'm gonna have a little sip of tea, but of course, water or anything else that you feel you want is a great time to have it right now. And we'll get into our next kind of flow in just a moment here. So now that we've warmed up our shoulders and our back, we're going to be doing something reminiscent to a sun salutation, but from a seated position. This is going to work our core, our shoulders, our low back. So if you have any problems in those areas, watch for the first round and keep in mind that I have variations for you and I'll demo those as well. I sometimes have people see the first thing I do and then they throw themselves into it and then, you know, they hurt a shoulder and I'm like, of course, like that's, hold on, it's okay. I'll show you a variation. It's totally okay. So what we're going to do, again, this version is if you don't have any issues in the core, low back, or shoulder as far as you're aware of. You would start with your hands at your chest. You would bring your hands up and out. And again, this is if you have no shoulder issues. We come up and out into a big stretch. And if you have no core issues, you can even lean back with this and open up. From there, we slowly bring our hands back in and reach down our body past our knees. And this is where you stop if you have any low back issues. But if you don't, you can keep bending all the way in half, or as close as is comfortable for you. Remember that we still need lots of space for air in our abdomen. From here, we are just going to flatten our spines out while staying lean forward. So that means that our hands are going to come up a little bit, but it's really just us pulling our shoulders back while keeping ourselves looking towards the ground. This is kind of a half lift. This is, again, strengthening that low back, and it's something that we have to be aware of. If you have any low back issues, you can stay in this relaxed position and use your hands for the next step. The next step is coming back to neutral. So again, using your hands or the strength of your low back, you come back to this nice relaxed position. You can even bring your hands back to your chest. So that's the flow. And if at any point you feel like you're not getting enough air, you can stop, do something else. I'll show the variations right away here before we get into it. So variations if you have shoulder problems. Starting from here, you cross your hands over your chest and you reach back, making sure you still get lots of air. So that's how we avoid the shoulder problems. If you have core problems, you don't lean back, you just straighten up and get nice and tall and stretch as much as you can with your hands on your chest if you have shoulder problems. If you also have low back problems, when we come down, you're just going to reach to your knees and lean forward gently, putting pressure into them so that you're working your upper back and arms a little bit, keeping your posture nice and tall, but lean forward just a little bit so that you have to work on some stability. And then you would come back, hands at your chest again, nice and relaxed. Does that make sense to everybody? We've got variations that can work for us. Awesome. If anything pops up that I should know about, or if you start coughing and need to take a break, please do it. But now we're going to work through that flow a little bit at your own pace. If you're going faster or slower than me, that is totally okay. The goal is pain-free movement and enough air that you can take a break if you need to, of course, but you're taking enough air in and you don't really have to worry about it too much. So when you're ready, hands at your chest to start. And with a breath in, we're going to get that first big stretch. So again, either hands at your chest and reaching up, or if you have no shoulder problems that you're aware of, you can reach out and lean back. If this is feeling like too much, you can even use your elbows. If you don't have a nice solid back on your chair, you can also just reach using your elbows. After we do this first cycle, I see someone with their hand up, and I'll just be a moment after that. When you're ready, come back down along your body, nice smooth breathing to your forward position. Again, if there's no back issues, you can bend in half, or you can go hands to your knees, but you're forward now. We're gonna hold that while I check that hand that someone raised. Yes, Oscar. Oh, Oscar, you're muted right now. Let me see if I can just text you. So once we're in that forward position, we're holding it for a little bit, we're breathing. Now on your own time, again, either using your hands or the strength of your low back, back to neutral with hands at your chest. When you're ready, we're going to cycle that again. So again, either elbows up or arms up, depending on your level of comfort. And try to breathe smooth and easy through your chest and belly. This is another good way of doing it. And on an exhale, you can relax down. Let your hands seek down your body until you're in your forward position, either bent really far or not. As long as you've got lots of room for air. Like I said, you can even be all the way up here using more of your hands and using your back and shoulder muscles to keep yourself upright instead of using your low back. When you're ready, slowly start working your way back to your neutral, relaxed position with your hands at your chest. One more time. First stretch. So again, arms out or with elbows, lean back if you can, or just go straight up. Breathe nice and easy. Got all the air you want. And on an exhale, work your way down your body to your preferred forward fold, either all the way, quarter, flat back, whatever works for you, a forward position that works either the strength or the mobility of your low back. Or your upper back if you're using hands here to keep yourself upright. Both are good. One more breath here. And on an exhale, use either your hands or the strength of your low back to come back to neutral and relax. Let your shoulders sag. You can sit back a little bit in your chair. Relax for a moment. Okay. Great job, everybody. It can be a lot for the shoulders to work up and down and all around and shifting focus and stuff like that. So good job keeping up with that. Hopefully everything's still feeling really good. Just check the time. Oh yeah, so we're going to be moving on to a little bit of lower body strengthening stuff right now. So your shoulders are getting a break, hooray. But I like doing some foot and ankle and hip stuff to help make sure that as we're out and about, everything is working correctly and we're just a little less worried about losing our balance or slipping or anything like that. So the first thing I'd like to try, I'm sitting forward in my chair, so I have a little bit of extra space to push on my knees. And what I'm going to do is, I've got the pillow under my feet. You don't really need that for this first exercise. I don't know if that's super visible on the screen, but you don't really need it for the first one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lean into my knees and push a little bit. And all my feet are going to do is come up onto my toes. So that's one option. And if you have any ankle issues that hurt when you point your toes, don't do that. Your alternative options, I have two more alternatives. Your second alternative is to pick your toes up off the ground, including the rest of your foot. instead of pushing them in. So those are two options. The third option is this one could use a pillow, but that's up to you. It's to curl your toes and grip really strongly and relax. So you're using the bottom of your foot to grab the floor and doing these little curls with your toes. That's the first exercise we're going to do. This is a little more like a standard strengthening situation than yoga. We'll go back to like that nice flow as our cool down. This is going to be kind of the peak. This and a couple other exercises. This is going to be the peak of our effort today. So to get started, we're going to do those ankle or foot exercises. We're going to do it for 3 rounds, and then we'll move on to a couple other exercises. So again, either raising your heels or raising your toes or curling your toes, whatever works for you. I'm going to set up a little timer, try to find a version that works for you. And whenever you're ready, take a good breath, make sure you're ready to go, and start moving your feet. So either heels up or toes up. Just a little bit of a smaller movement for sure. Or squeeze your toes inward, try to ball them up and relax. And you're just doing that over and over, whichever one doesn't bother you and feels good. So I could just do heels over and over, or toes over and over. Again, it's whatever works for you and your ankles, whatever strengthens your ankles and your feet. All 3 of these movements have been proven to really help people with ankle stability, foot strength, these kinds of things that can be tricky to find elsewhere, but that really end up helping us with our balance and stability. Doing great. We're halfway through. Make sure you're getting lots of air. And of course, you can stop and like take little breathers whenever you want. Just like in yoga. We don't want anyone going so far that they get a foot cramp and then can't do the rest of them. So in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, relax. You can bring your feet out in front and give them a little shake. Make sure everything's okay. Have a sip of tea or whatever else you have.
Can you combine those like heels up and then toes up?
You can definitely combine them as long as it doesn't bother your ankles or feet. Yeah. So I was demoing all 3 just so that you had a running demonstration. But yeah, you can definitely do heels, then toes, then curl, then heels, then toes, then curl. You can definitely do that as an option as long as it doesn't bother you.
Great.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Round 2. Again, you can pick one or you can do them as we just discussed in combination. 3, 2, 1, go. Heels or toes or curling or mixtures. Heel, toes, curl. Maybe you want to do curl, heel, toe, or some other direction or combination. Totally up to you. As long as you're doing one of the 3 movements or a combination of the 3 movements, I'm happy. We're already over halfway through this round. Keep it up. Almost there. Five, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Relax. Give those feet a little shake. Make sure everything's okay. I'm gonna have I've actually been going to school to be a massage therapist recently, so I haven't been teaching a lot of classes. So I'll be sipping tea just to make sure my voice holds up okay.
Yeah.
I haven't had to talk this much in months. It is good though. It's very nice to be able to do this again. So thanks for your patience because I am subbing for someone today. So
Yes.
it's a pleasure to be here. We'll do one more round of the feet, and then we'll move on. I've got a couple hip exercises for us after this. All right, so again, in 3, 2, 1, go. You can do ankles, or sorry, you can either do your heels up or toes up, or curl your toes, or any combination of those 3. We're working our ankles and our feet for the next just under a minute to go now. Doing great. Again, moving under your control. So making sure you have lots of air and you're not lifting and then dropping your heels, especially in the 3rd round that these muscles might be a little tired. We're not lifting and dropping. It is lift and controlled downward. It's a squeeze and a controlled relaxation. So up, controlled down. We are almost there. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and done. Great job. Give those feet a little waggle, make sure they're okay. We will come back to stretch them out at the end of the day. And yeah, great work. I also know at least one of you has to leave at 1:45, so be aware that it's 1:40 right now. Yeah, if you need to leave after this next exercise, that's totally okay. So the next exercise, there are a bunch of variations on this one as well. The idea is that we are taking our knees, which are narrow along with our feet, and we're pushing them to the outside. This muscle, or this works our gluteus maximus muscles and all the other muscles that push our knees out to the side that we use for stabilization and balance. So we have a few options in how we turn that into a more challenging exercise. If this is already challenging, just holding them narrow and pushing out, stick with that. If you want more of a challenge, place your hands just behind the joint, so I'm not on the bone, I'm on the muscle, and push inward using your hands while you resist them using your legs. So that hits your chest as well as these big hip abductors. Another option is if your chair has armrests like mine, you can sit near the back and just try to push your legs out. Be careful not to break your chair, but try to find a comfortable way that you can resist the chair by pushing out over and over while making sure that you can get lots of air. So hip abduction, again, either unresisted, just with narrow legs, pushing out and in, or with resistance coming from your hands, or resistance coming from an object. So that's our next exercise. We're going to do this for only about 2 rounds, and then we're going to move on to another exercise. Alrighty, first round. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. So again, either on its own, you're doing kind of a clamshell motion if you've never done that for hip strengthening before, or you can resist just behind the knee or anywhere along the thigh, really. The further out your hands go, the harder it's going to be on both your hips and on your shoulders. Make sure you've got lots of air. And if at any point this starts to like hurt or just be too hard, you can bring your hands back or take them away for a little bit to give yourself a break. So again, pressing in on the thigh as your legs press out.
Can that stress our hips, Etienne?
Sorry?
Can that stress our hips?
Yeah, it shouldn't hurt. So if it does hurt, because we are trying to strengthen the hips here, so if it does hurt, you can take your hands away and just work on mobilization instead, because this movement still works your hips. It's just adding the resistance that might be bothering them. So it should be working the outside of the hip.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And that's actually time on the first set. Take a little break. So some people will advertise that movement as a way to like adjust your own hips. And I don't really think that that's a good use of it, but it is a good way to add some resistance to that movement of pushing outward using those hip muscles.
It's a good thing you're not making us crush walnuts like Jill does.
I know, right? Like this is why she calls me up, you know? It's like, hey, I need somebody last minute, and I heard that, like, you know, since you're working with someone you don't know, you might actually take it easy on them for once.
He's back.
All right. Okay, one more time. Again, whatever version feels okay on your individual hips and gives you enough space for air. In 3, 2, 1, go. So that can be hands free with a little bit of resistance. And of course, you can change the resistance. Your hands don't have to be pushing as hard as you can. Just be a little bit to make sure that we're working those hip muscles. Or you can use the chair, but again, that's a little more intense. I find it easier on my shoulders, but it's a chair, so it's a lot stronger than I can be at pushing in on my own knees.
Is it easier with your feet apart?
So yes and no. It might feel easier, but that's because your hips are already out a little bit. Your knees are already placed out a little bit, so it doesn't have to move as far. Here, you get the full range of motion because your hips are already brought in a little bit, so they get to move further. So it may feel easier and it may be more comfortable. So that's definitely an option for yourself. But yeah, usually I coach them from here just so that you get the full range of motion. But if it feels better, try it out. Okay, that is time. Good job, everyone.
I don't know if I was cheating, but I used my TheraBand for resistance.
Oh, great. Yeah, no, anything you have at home to add extra resistance or make it more comfortable for yourself is a win. Yeah, no, I don't think that's cheating at all. All righty. For the next exercise, we're going to do a little bit of a low back work. So again, if you have low back issues, I will show you variations.
Yes.
I'm going to demo it kind of facing off to the side at the start, just so that you have an idea of what the back is doing at this time. So what I'd like to try is holding our arms out in front. You can also do this at your chest if you have any shoulder issues or when your shoulders start to get tired. And then we're going to try to keep our spine straight as we bend forward and come back. So we're pressing ourselves forward and pulling ourselves back. This little movement puts the pressure into the muscles of our low back, but keeping your back in a neutral position keeps it off of the bones of the spine. And then using the muscles to pull yourself back to neutral. If you have the shoulders up, it adds that little bit of shoulder resistance. And it's like you're passing a pot of chili to someone at a Christmas dinner, you know? It's like, it's very functional in terms of movement, but it might look a little silly at the time. If you have weights that you like to use, you can definitely try it during this movement, but try to master the movement first before adding any extra resistance. So.
Are the legs apart or together?
Sorry?
Are the legs apart or together or?
Doesn't matter. I'll just comfortable and planted firmly on the floor because you don't want this sliding around while you're trying to focus on your back. So for example, for me, my legs are more comfortable with my knees super far apart, but you can do it with legs narrow. It's whatever is comfortable for you.
So do you have one for people with a very sore lower back as well?
I do. So for this, an option here, if your upper back, or sorry, if your lower back is very sore, you can do an exercise with your upper back and the back of your shoulders instead, where you have your elbows together, or you have your elbows out at shoulder level, you squeeze them together as best you can, then you pull apart as best you can. So this is for the upper back and shoulders. This is for the lower back and shoulders. So it's whichever one you prefer and that feels good for you today.
Does feel good.
Awesome.
Way better.
Woo! We got one.
Thanks, Etienne.
All right, so again, I'll be demoing both, but it's whichever one feels best for you today. All righty, I've got my timer ready. And in 3, 2, 1, go.
How long are we going for?
About a minute, give or take. And that's just because I don't want this to be a super intense movement. I want it to be somewhere that you can keep it going for anywhere between 30 seconds to a minute. So if, of course, you need to take a break, you can take it. So do that. But if it like starts getting sore or starts getting super tired, that gives you enough time to take a break and be like, actually, that's my limit for today. You know? So that's why the limit is the maximum amount of time rather than the expected amount of time. 20 seconds left. I've been in classes of Jill's where she'll do like a 2-minute set. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever had one of those with her.
Yep.
But
Oh, yes.
okay, good.
When she gets talking and forgets to watch the timer.
Yes, yes. 3, 2, 1, and break. Good job. Let those shoulders relax. Great work.
Come on, Karen, Jill never did that.
Never. Yeah, especially with this one with the elbows and upper back, because it's a shorter movement, you'll end up doing a lot more of them in that 1 minute. So I definitely recommend taking breaks if you're doing that one for yourself. Or this is another thing you can do is slow down a little bit on the movement and see if that helps you last a little longer, because it's tiring out each of these positions as you go along, but you're only hitting them once there and back. If you hit it more quickly, you're hitting them more often, more quicker. So they're just different options for you if you're doing that movement. Okay. Get ready for round 2. Mobilizing everything, checking in. Arms up, and in 3, 2, 1, go. You're either doing that lean forward while keeping your torso as aligned but leaned forward as possible, so the spine doesn't curl. The spine stays neutral as we shift at the hips. Or you're doing upper back curl, upper back squeeze, upper back curl, elbows together, upper back squeeze, elbows apart. We're over halfway done already on the second round. We are going to do a third one, and then we'll already be at cool down time. Almost there. Make sure you've got tons of air. You've got 10 more seconds to go. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Relax. So I'm kind of the opposite of Jill. I will watch for that clock, but I may forget to check in about when people take breaks, especially virtually. So of course, I really hope that you're taking breaks and that things are working for you, especially if you're watching this as a recording. The expectation isn't that you do everything exactly as I do it. It's just whatever you're feeling like today. All right. I'm going to grab a sip of tea. And as long as you've had a moment to catch your breath and you're feeling good, we'll get started on our final round of that exercise. Just a few seconds. So I'm taking a moment to set myself back up, feet comfortably on the floor. I've decided I'm going to like demo both as per usual, but you can pick whichever one you're working on right now. And in 3, 2, 1, go. Either pass the gravy, I guess, pass the gravy, or squeeze the elbows together and bring them apart.
Hello?
Hey, Marilyn, it's Diana.
Huh?
I'm home now, and I could meet you right away, actually, pretty close.
Okay.
Now, do you have a key to get into the laundry machines, or do I need to bring one?
Well, bring one because I only have one.
We're over halfway, keep it up.
Bags to put money in, or do I need to do something about that?
No, I have 2 bags.
Okay, perfect. Shall I meet you in the laundry room momentarily?
Sure, that sounds good. I'll just go to the bathroom and I'll meet you there.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
10 more seconds. Almost done. 3, 2, 1, and you're done. Congratulations. You made it through the strengthening component. That is it. That is our peak of work for today. And now we get to bring ourselves back down nice and comfortably into our chairs. So the first thing I want you to do is find your position of greatest comfort. If that's laying flat on the floor, that's fine, but I don't know if I recommend that right away after having
Might not get up.
exactly.
How are we all
Feels
gonna
pretty
get up?
hard.
Yeah.
So get comfortable. You might see me cross my legs. That's just how I like to sit. Everybody's different. You don't have to do that. We're gonna start again, focusing on that breath in our bellies. You can place your hands there if you want to. Take a few breaths, focusing on pushing in and out at the belly. Take this moment to think about relaxing your jaw and any tension that you have running up into the top of your head, along the sides of your ears. Good. You move your hands to the sides of your ribs, slow down again, so either in a little hug or with elbows out, whatever's more comfortable, and push those hands in and out using your diaphragm. Awesome. And our third position, the same one in the group of three that we started with, hands either on your chest or at the clavicle if that's a comfortable arm position for you to be in, and trying to press our hands up and outward using our chest and the muscles on the side of our neck. We're not deep per se, but comfortable, slow, controlled breaths. One more breath, and then you can let your arms come down to your thighs. Awesome. We're going to do a few stretches for the areas we worked the most today, and then we're going to be done. So first, we're going to stretch out our shoulders and upper backs a little bit. What I'd like you to try is putting your knuckles together like this. And we're going to try to keep them touching. We're not going to let them come apart. All we're going to do from here is reach out with them, let your chin tuck, let your shoulders come forward, and try to get a big stretch across your back. You may also feel a stretch in the back of your wrist. That's perfect. This position without a stretched back is what people will use to counter carpal tunnel. We're adding a curled back into it to get you a nice upper back stretch. And if you want to turn to one side to get more of a stretch, you can, or the other side, whatever works for you. You get to take this time and with nice, comfortable breathing, get your upper back and this beginning of the back of your shoulders and even the back of your wrists, a little stretch. Three, two, and one. Release your hands, let them come down. Slowly work your way back up to a neutral position. We're now going to try to hit the top of the shoulder, which can be a little tricky. So there are a couple ways you can try to do it. And it depends on your shoulder flexibility as well. You can bring your elbow across the front of your body and then apply some gentle pressure across to pull across the top of the shoulder. If you are super flexible and want to bring your hand behind you and lead away, that can stretch down the neck into the shoulder. Or if you want to hit the chest as well as the shoulder, you bring your arm up, let it lean back, and look away, and that can hit the front of the shoulder. So those are your three options. We'll do this side for a little bit, and then we'll go to the other side. So again, your options are down low, behind, if you have the flexibility and it's not painful, or out and look away. So I like to plant my hand on something and look away, but that is up to you. And unlike the other exercise where I give you some options and you could cycle through them, I'd recommend just picking one for your shoulder because, you know, one is probably going to feel better than the rest. And then we're just going to spend the rest of that time stretching out. 3, 2, and 1. Let your arm come back to neutral. Relax your shoulders. Take a moment. We're going to do this other side, and then that'll be it for today. So again, your options are across your body, gentle pressure across, again, coming across so that we end up stretching the top of the shoulder. If you have the flexibility, bring your arm behind you and lean away. Or elbow braced, arm out, look away, and let the shoulder and chest stretch. So I'm bracing my elbow against the armrest here. Oh, you can also just have your arm rotated out as far as it's comfortable. Oh, and I see a hand up. Oscar, what can I do for you?
No, I'm okay.
Oh, okay, great. It was just telling me you wanted attention or something. So as long as you're good, I'm happy.
Yeah.
Let's do 2 more big breaths, as comfortable as possible.
You mentioned something about carpal tunnel. I didn't catch it.
Okay, so this stretch that we started with, where your knuckles are together and you just press outward, is a stretch that is sometimes given to people with carpal tunnel. And you essentially just stop whenever you feel a stretch without bringing your knuckles apart. So if your knuckles come apart, you have to come back, put the knuckles together, and let your hands come out until you feel a stretch along the back of your wrist. So that sometimes helps some people with carpal tunnel. There are tons of options out there, and everybody's wrists are a little different. So if that worked for you today, I'm glad to have given you a new tool, maybe.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming out, everyone. This was a masterclass, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you.
It was great. Thanks.